bum ba bum bum ba bum 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 ba dum bum bum ba bum 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 ba bum bum boom boom ba ba dum bum ba bum bum ba bum 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 ba dum boom boom ba bum bum.
Okay. As soon as the dummy is ready, we are ready. Yeah? Okay, so we are on page Gimel. 8 lines from the top. The line begins with Kulhi, and that's where we start. So at this point, we finished elaborating on the primary question: how are the Chachamim approaching this whole Inyan of being mevatel the mitzvahs esem midat Torah because of Chasha Shem Yadirenu? We discussed various sides to this question. By the way, I want to mark what I thought they maybe suggest to them that okay. I think that's what the pronunciation says. Okay, Gam tzorich lohavin.
Which was the question?
What's the question?
Yeah.
Sure.
You said I just arrived, so I didn't hear the question. Which question?
The primary question.
The primary question of why, how come the Chachamim found it justified to be mevatla mitzvah HaTorah because of Chasha Shem Yavirenu. And we pointed out various nuances about this Gzeira. And we discussed at great length the supremacy, the uniqueness of mitzvah tshuva, Sefer, and so forth.
What's Gifufi? Gifufi? Hachatza?
Where?
And the parentheses, small parentheses, the Pesach, the Gifufi Hachatza.
Gefufe Hachatza means the posts. Okay. Gam tzorich lohavin. Furthermore, we need to understand Masha Omer Azal, that which the Chachamim say, Imru lefonai malchi yois, that Hashem said that to Yidden, say before me, malchi yois, psukim of royalty, kedei shetamlichuni aleichem, so that you will coronate me over you, establish me as king over you. Zichroinois, and say before me remembrances. Today, sheyale zichreinechem lefana leteva. In order so that your remembrance will come up to me leteva in favor. Obameh, and what is the means by which these things are ultimately accomplished? Not just by saying it, but there is another important ingredient in this effect. But b'sefer, it is through sefer. V'hainu, which means to say, shall date ki sefer, that through the effect of the blowing of the shofar, alidei zeh tamlichuni aleichem, thereby you are coronating me over yourself. Ukenoida, and as is known, the Inyan Hatkiyahu, that the principle and what is the meaning of the Kiyah, it is Kabbalah Seil Malchus Shamayim. Mashenoisen Atzmei Lelakus. Kiyah is a message, is a statement. Mashenoisen Atzmei Lelakus, that he is dedicated himself to godliness. V'zehu, And that is also implied in the fact that Tkiya, he miloshen ut kaitiv Yosef b'mokim ne'emon. Tkiya is also related to so to speak, an alternative meaning, which is miloshen ut kaitiv Yosef, and I impressed it, I forced it, Yosef as a spec, as a base, but mokim ne'emon, in a trustworthy and a steady place. Which means shetokeya v'noisin esatzmei, that he inserts himself v'noisin and gives himself over. This is also related to the word tekiya. And thus, the Tekiya Shefer, this represents the union, as you said, Kabbalah Shem Achos Shemayim, and the dedication to Elokus. V'gam, and then also, Alidei Zeh Ya'ale Zichreinechem. So there's a union Malchus, dedication to Kabbalah Shem Achos Shemayim, and there is also Alidei Zeh Ya'ale Zichreinechem, that your remembrance, that you'll be remembered by me. Kuli. Ukmei shekosuv. And as the Pasuk says, Uskait and bachatzeitz, and you should blow the trumpets. V'hoyu lochem lezikoren ani Hashem Elokechem. And that will be to you for a remembrance. Ani Hashem Elokechem, I'm your God. So we see that Kiyo brings about zikor. Therefore, according to this, we're reversing the question. Now we need to further understand mahu inyan psuke shefris. What is the purpose of saying the psukim of shefris and psukim of zichroinos? Why does blowing the shofar itself not sufficient? What do the saying of the psukim add to the blowing shofar itself? And when Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos, then we don't blow shofar altogether. We only say the psukim of shofars. Calls them to understand all of the above. Yesh lehadim, we need to introduce Mashe Matan Torah Hoyo Alidei Koil Shofar. The fact that Matan Torah, the giving of Torah, came through and with the Koil Shofar, the sound of the Shofar. Okmei Shekosov, as the Pasuk says, V'chol Hom Reim, the entire nation see. It says sort of as a Koil HaShofar, and they also see the Koil HaShofar, the sound of the Shofar. We need to understand Mahu Iyan Koil Shofar and Matan Torah. What is the relationship of Koil Shofar from Matan Torah? However, the Inyan is this: the Hine Gabe Torah Ksiv Dracheho Dachineim V'chol Nesiv Yiseho Sholem. Regarding Torah, it says that its pathways, its and Dachineim are ways of pleasantness, and its Nesivos means there's smaller alleyways. Asholim are in peace, are of peace. So first of all, we have to understand that the Torah is called derech, a way, a pathway. And as it says in the Pasuk, this is said by Avraham Avinu. That Hashem said, I love Avram because I know that he will instruct his offspring to V'shomru derech havaya, that they will guard the derech havaya, the pathway of havaya, las etzoku mishpat, to do righteousness and judgment. I know, which is telling us, shehateira, in what ways the Torah is a derech? What is the relationship? The Torah haderech, that is the roadway, shebo ve'al yodo nimshach gilui eirin so ba'elam. That on this pathway, and as a result of this pathway, nimshach gilui eirin so ba'elam, you can bring down and reveal eirin soif in the world. Or K'meisha Kosov, as the Posik says, Halichois oilam loy. That the pathways of the world is loyal to him, which means shehahiluch vehamshocha dein soy bo'elam. That the movement, the process of bringing down in soy bo'elam hu alidei haTorah. Because the Gemara says, Kuli, the Rebbe doesn't bring down all the connecting, all the involved droshes of it. We say it every day in davening. Halachos refers to the Torah. Now the Torah, these are the halichos, is the pathways in the world, loy, for him, for Hashem to be able to come and be present in the world. What is the significance of this? That we're saying that the Torah is halichis oilam loy, is a pathway for alakus. So let us reflect for just one moment all the various psukim that we brought down. Normally, we would think that the Torah is a derech, the pathway of life. The proper mode of behavior for human beings in the world. As we usually point out, that from a worldly perspective, laws and proper interaction and proper respect are necessity in order for people to be able to thrive and develop in the world. So this is also called a way of life. A way of life, and a means by which people can develop and succeed in life. But these psukim that you brought down are pointing to something else. Now this is a way for Hashem. Alichis oilam loy. Shom the derech havaya. This is the derech of Hashem. Not derech of people, the proper way of behavior, decency. But derech havaya. What does it mean that havaya needs a derech, a pathway, in order to be in the world? Hashem created the world. Hashem is everywhere. So to explain this, this is actually the question that we want to explain and to understand. So now this is the explanation. Liheyois yodua, being that it is known, the atzmus eirin soif, that the essence of eirin soif, who pashut betachlis, for the moment we won't say the word pashut. The literal word pashut means simple. In context, this means that there are no handles, no way to identify it. Betachlis, to the extreme. V'hu l'maylo megeder hishtalshus. And thus it is above of Geder Hishtalshus. the implication, the word gather, is not only is it not involved, Hishtalshelus means, essentially, Hishtalshelus is cause and effect. Hishtalshelus comes from word shalshelis, a chain. In a chain, one rung is attached to another, and thereby it can extend itself over a long distance. And one chain is holding up the other, and the upper chain is holding up the lower chain. The lower chain is connecting the upper chain to a further distance. This is Hishtalshelus. There are two implications here. One would be Ma'ila Hishtalshelus, and then one is Ma'ila Megeder Hishtalshelus. To understand the implication, Megeder is this. Let us take an analogy of a business where there are various different ranks. There is the floor worker, then there is the immediate management, and then there is a middle management, a top management. And then on the very top, there is what's called the CEO or the president. There's one person that is the tutelar head, so to speak. He is the spirit behind the entire operation, entire business. So even though there are many different ranks within the process of the business, the top management is instructing the middle management. The middle management carries that instruction through at its level to the lower management. The lower management carries its instruction through to the laborers, to the actual performers of the task. As a result, when it is taking place on the floor, it is reflective. You can trace it back to the top management. Now, these actions are reflective of the top management has decided to happen. This is called Seder Hishtalshelus. Then there is, we said that there's the CEO. The CEO is not involved in the process of how a certain task is going to be accomplished. This is the responsibility of the management and of the workers. The CEO, he essentially decides in what direction we're going to make an investment. Sometimes he decides which product are we going to produce. Sometimes he decides his decision isn't beyond that. Where are we going to establish the business? In New Jersey or in New York or in Honolulu? Which has nothing to do in a practical level how the business is going to run. And yet, that decision is crucial to the success of the business. So, even though he is not involved in the Seder, in the organizational success of the business, what's called Seder Hishtalshelus, he is a Ma'ila Hishtalshelus. He's above him. Because whatever business it is, where it's going to be located is sort of in a separate category of a decision than how we're going to set up the floor. But he is not l'mayla migeder hishtalshelus. because when he makes a decision, we are going to station our business in Honolulu, it is keeping in mind as to what kind of business it is and how he expects it to succeed. It's not an independent decision. I like Honolulu. If he makes a decision on that basis, he should be destroying the business. He has to be involved, so to speak, and recognize the overall intent. L'mayla megeder hishtalshelus is a completely different status. He can't even. Gather means that he is not involved at all in the business, in the concept of the business. Clearly, we do not have an illustration of something that someone who is l'mayla megeder hishtalshelus. Perhaps we could say that there is an element, l'mayla megeder. This is what we call the king. This is the person whose concern and who is involved not in the success of the business and how anything is accomplished. He is involved in the health of the country. And the reason he's involved in the health of the country is because of the principles that this country stands for. Not even for the welfare of the individuals. Like the Rebbe gives in the Maimorim of Yud Shvat, the Maimorim, that the Melech can be sacrificing a lot of the wealth and the power of the country and also the life of his citizens in order to be victorious in his principle. This is something which is uninvolved completely. It's l'mayla megeder. He has a completely different perspective, and he stands in a different, and his values are drawn from a different source, not from the welfare of the individual, welfare of the country. His values are drawn from the value, from the truth, from the purpose. Let's make l'mayla megeder. He's not in that parameter set. So Ayin Soif, l'mayla megeder, not the l'mayla hishtalshelus. The l'mayla megeder hishtalshelus. And this is why we say it's a posher b'tachlis. There is nothing with which you can correlate Ayin Soif to world. It's posher b'tachlis. Don't see any kind of relationship there.
I feel like right after the Tzimtzum Rishon starts Hishtalshelus, so I would think the l'mayla me Hishtalshelus itself would already be that. I mean,
Well, once again,
I thought that right after the first Tzimtzum starts Hishtalshelus right away, so the l'mayla me Hishtalshelus would already be the Ayin Soif. Like the boss, for example, of the company.
one second.
Okay.
What is your question?
My question is how does l'mayla megeder hishtalshelus show something higher than l'mayla me hishtalshelus? Or does that mean the same thing, maybe? Like what's...
No, I explained to you what the difference is.
I'm a little fuzzy on that.
Okay. In the person, as we always speak, that there are 10 koiches, starting from Chochmah on down. And above that there is Oineg and Rotzen. Chochmah is the beginning of Ishtalshalos. Actually, Chochmah, he says, Chochmah is actually higher than Ishtalshalos. Because Chochmah does not have any means, you can't even grasp it. In Bina you begin to grasp. And in Ishtalshalos, like in Midas, you know precisely what this action is supposed to be. This is where it begins in Bina. In Chochmah there is no such definitive presence. Above that there is Rotzen and Oineg. And as we always speak, there is a categorical difference between Chochmah, although Chochmah is really pure, and Rotzen and Oineg. Rotzen and Oineg do not recognize differences between Chochmah and the foot. That's why the mind together is Tashas.
So Chachma is like, you could say Chachma is L'mayla Mei Ishtalshalos?
Right. Chochmah is L'mayla Ishtalshalos.
Right.
But it's not L'mayla Megeder Ishtalshalos, because ultimately the oil of Chochmah trickles down through Bina into the Midas, into action.
Is it both, like part of Ishtalshalos, but also higher?
Okay, I think that's sufficient.
Okay, fine.
Behol L'mayla Megeder Ishtalshalos. This is Atzmus Ein in Soibes L'mayla Megeder Ishtalshalos. Since this is sort of not the very first time, but we are first being introduced to the concept of Atzmus Ein Sof. And I want to also explain the terminology of Atzmus Ein Sof. What does the word Atzmus help us to know what we are talking about, in addition to saying Oyer Ein Sof? Oyer Ein Sof, the infinite light. Ishtalshalos cannot be infinite. The Ishtalshalos means that there is an end of one madrege and a no madrege begins. So then each madrege has its end, whatever that is. Oyer Ein Sof means that it's infinite, so it never ends. So what is the word Atzmus contribute to this, to understanding this idea? And as we point out all the time, that the whole concept, the whole term of etzem, an essential being, an essence, does not exist within the worldly parameter. In a worldly parameter, world means that there is a structure. Everything has its parts that constitute the whole and make the whole be what it is. Like we say, a car moves. A car doesn't move. A car spins the wheel and the wheel touches the ground, and as a result it creates friction. As a result of that, it's pushed to move. Car does not move. A human being moves. He knows what it means to move. A car doesn't know what it means to move. So the essence, you have to understand that this is a principle because, and it's easy to be lost in the worldly context. This is why in the world they came up with the idea of the evolutionary development, because we have on the Shoma, we have a human being. It's a finished product, and we cannot see what makes him tick. It cannot be. There cannot be such an essential element. There has to be some kind of a cause and effect. Something has to trigger his activity. We say, no, there is a neshama, and the neshama is alive and well. Where is it? This is a godly truth. This is not something that has to do with any trigger, any worldly trigger. This is called an etzem. And in the world, they cannot put it in perspective. Where is the world get an etzem? This is the meaning of the word atzmos himself. I'm overstaying the time. You know what? I'm going to stop here because I don't want to go, and we'll pick it up in Mitchell tomorrow. Poshet, I want to introduce the concept of etzem so that we have something to refer to as we go through. All right, so have a good day. Anyone who is still online, be well.